Curing prints is essential. If a print isn't cured, it could wash off the shirt. The majority of problems novice printers run into is with the curing process. Let's cure both our water-based and Plastisol prints and talk about best curing practices with a heat gun, a flash dryer, heat press, and a conveyor dryer. Curing happens when ink heats up to a high temperature and adheres to the shirt. Cured ink won't wash out or crack. Let's talk about how to achieve a proper cure. Proper cure happens when the entire ink layer reaches cure temperature. This means the top layer all the way to the bottom layer of the ink that touches the shirt has been cured. Standard inks cure at 320 degrees Fahrenheit, like the green Galaxy water-based ink. The Plastisol ink we used, Effin ink, cures at 260 degrees Fahrenheit, making it a low cure ink. Low cure inks mean that they will achieve full cure at the lower temp of 260 degrees. For more info on low cure inks, check out the links in the class description. Curing Plastisol ink is much more straightforward than curing water-based, so we'll start there. All we need to do is make sure the entire ink layer is cured at 260 degrees Fahrenheit. To monitor the temperature, use a laser temp gun. The laser temp gun is reflective reading, so it won't show the true temperature of the ink. Full cure happens when the entire ink layer reaches the standard cure temp. This ink cures at 260 degrees, so we're looking for a temperature reading that is higher than 260. If the top layer is hotter than cure temp, the bottom layer of the ink will be closer to reaching full cure. Curing with a heat gun takes a lot longer than other curing methods, but it's the method that many screen printers start with. To cure with a heat gun, simply hover the heat gun over the garment and slowly move it around the image area. Make sure to check the temperature of the ink layer in order to reach full cure. When curing with the heat gun becomes too time consuming, consider curing with a flash dryer. A flash dryer is a very helpful tool in any size shop. It helps to gel ink layers for a more vibrant print and can be used to cure garments as well. There's a few things to consider when curing with a flash dryer. The first is shop temperature. Everything in the shop will perform better around 70 to 80 degrees. Minimize airflow in your shop while using the flash dryer to cure. If there's too much of a breeze, the heat from the flash dryer can blow away from the shirt, taking way longer to cure. Lastly, try to keep the platens warm, but not hot. If wood platens get too hot, they can start to warp, causing lots of issues with printing consistency. Aluminum platens don't have this issue. Give the flash dryer 10 to 15 minutes to warm up before using it to cure. Raise the flash about 2 to 5 inches away from the platen. When it's time to cure, first take the shirt off the platen and lay it on top. If the shirt is still stuck to the platen, there's no space for the heat to penetrate through the garment. Now swivel the flash over the shirt. Remember, you'll need the entire ink layer to get to 260 degrees Fahrenheit or above. If you're using a temp gun, it will need to read higher than 260, since it only reads a reflective temp. Keep the platen under the flash dryer until the ink layer is fully cured. This is usually around 30 to 40 seconds. If you decorate shirts with vinyl, you already have a curing device in your space, a heat press. Curing with a heat press is incredibly simple. For Plastisol inks, read the label to discover the cure temp and set the heat press to be 20 to 30 degrees above that cure temperature. Place a heat-resistant, non-stick sheet on the print. Press for 20 to 30 seconds with light to medium pressure. That's all there is to it. Now, let's cure our water-based inks. Getting a proper cure with water-based ink takes a bit more finesse. When curing a water-based print, the ink layer needs to breathe in order to evaporate the moisture. For extra assurance that the ink layer is cured, add warp drive to the ink. We did this in the ink course. Let's cure our water-based prints with a flash dryer and a heat press. The process of curing with a flash dryer isn't much different than with Plastisol. The difference is that water-based ink needs time to evaporate before it can fully cure. Because of this, water-based ink will take longer to cure than Plastisol. Lay the shirt on top of the platen like before. Apply the flash dryer and wait until the print is dry to the touch. If you see steam, don't panic. the water in the ink is evaporating and the ink will begin to cure. There are flash dryers specifically made for curing water-based inks. The Riley Hopkins forced air flash dryer pushes hot air evenly across the print, evaporating the water. If you plan to print with mainly water-based inks, investing in a forced air flash unit is a great idea. Curing water-based ink with a heat press is also a great option. Set the heat press at 330 degrees with light pressure. Place a heat-resistant non-stick sheet on the print. When curing a water-based print, the ink layer needs to breathe in order to evaporate the moisture. Press onto it for 45 seconds to a minute. If you add warp drive to the ink, press it for 30 to 45 seconds. Many shops cure with a heat press or flash dryer to start, and upgrade to a conveyor when their shop has space and budget. A conveyor dryer is a curing tool that increases efficiency in a shop. It has a conveyor belt and closed heating elements to cure shirts quicker than a flash dryer or heat press. Conveyor dryers run multiple shirts through at a time. Getting a small conveyor dryer like a tabletop dryer is a great next step. There's one more step to the curing process: testing for full cure. Think of curing like baking a cake. After the timer dings and you pull the cake out of the oven, it may look perfectly baked. Once you stick a toothpick in the middle of the cake and see that it's still gooey, you then know it still needs to be baked for longer. The same idea applies to testing cured ink. It may look cured, but you won't know for sure until you test. Once your garment has been cured, let the shirt and ink cool down to room temperature. Then it's time for a test. You can do this two ways, with a stretch test and a wash test. A stretch test shows whether or not the top layer of the ink is cured or not. After curing the garment and letting it cool down, stretch the biggest area of ink and see if it cracks. Cracking ink means it wasn't completely cured. Performing a stretch test will give you a brief idea of whether or not some curing has occurred. It's not an accurate way to see if the ink is fully cured to the bottom layer. Doing the second test will show if the entire ink layer is fully cured. The key to a wash test is to run it in the most harsh conditions. Chances are many people will throw a shirt in the wash with other colors at a high temperature and toss it into a dryer at high temp right after. That's what you need to do with the wash test. Don't be nice to the shirt. The goal is to show how the ink performs from a customer's perspective. Always test before you print the final product. Print on a few garments and dial in curing details before printing the final product. Testing may seem tedious, but it'll save you time, money, and headaches down the road. Plus, it'll boost your confidence. Our prints are fully cured and have passed the test. Now all that's left is to fold them, box them, and clean up our printing space. Welcome to How to Screen Print with a Kit, the 150 edition. In this free course, I'll be walking you through every step of the process, from darkroom setup to reclaim. I'll be using the Riley Hopkins 150 kit. It has everything you need to start a screen printing hobby or side hustle. Jump in today and get screen printing tomorrow.